I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome all in attendance and those live streaming. We do have a full council here except Rich McHugh, who is excused. Also present, Cliff Gravier, our town manager, Terry Tiemann, assistant town manager, Raylene Menominee, town clerk, and Will Warden, our IT director. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Any discussion? I don't think there's any discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of the minutes of the meeting held October the 18th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes of the workshop and special meeting held October 28th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Approval of the financial report. Mrs. Keel.
Thank you, Mayor. This report covers the budget through October 31st, 2004. We are 58% through fiscal year 2025. The revenue is a little less than budgeted. We've collected about 79% of the budgeted revenue compared to 85% last year. That is mainly due to a decrease in transfer taxes. Our operating expenses are on target. We've expended 63% of the budget compared to 62.8% of the budget compared to 63.2 last year. Recognizing that this report is subject to audit, I move that the council approve this unaudited report.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Okay. Announcements and recognition of visitors. Do we have anybody present that wants to say anything? There will be opportunities later on. Okay. Jen, did you want to say something now? It's up to you. It's up to me. Go ahead.
Jen Carter, 429 Collins Street. I'm wondering, I sent an email, I didn't expect an immediate response, but about the whatever's happening at the water plant, the noise and I actually recorded it today, and it says, like for hours, whatever they're doing at it. I mean, my thought is, you can't stop that kind of noise. The big trucks, the tankers, we used to call honey bucket trucks in Japan, were roaring up and down the street. One was really good, one just flies, and I'm just concerned because we do have some pets and people walking on the street now. So I'm wondering if some kind of communication, it's been going on all week, if something could be sent to residents saying, this is what's going to happen, there's going to be noise, blah, blah, blah. That's all, so we're prepared. It's a really annoying noise, too. So that's one thing. Is there a communication that can be done, like moving forward with that kind of thing to let people know what's happening? Not really.
We have so much ongoing work at the water plant that I think it might be beyond the pale to constantly notify citizens if there might be a day or two of noise. What you're hearing is something that occurs at least twice annually at the water plant, and no one has ever complained about it before, so I don't know how egregious it might be.
I'm inside and I can hear it, so I am sensitive to vibration, so I accept that. It's just a thought. this is on our calendar, this is what's happening in the town this month, whatever, that kind of thing. I just am big on communication.
Sure. I think you don't really have a good grasp of the size of our staff here, and it's a 2 or 3 person band with the type of notification that you talk about and speak of. We'd be increasing full-time employment by 2 or 3, I think, so, yeah.
I think it's just a calendar thing. If everything goes into one place, could that one place be shared? When you all have it on the calendar, right, what you're doing in town?
Oh, we don't have maintenance at the water plant on our calendars now.
You don't have what?
We don't have maintenance at the water plant on our town calendars, no.
Okay. Okay. And that goes into the situation with the clarifiers. I guess I'm hearing this noise and I'm jumping ahead to when and if, I don't know I couldn't come to that meeting on the clarifiers at the plant, that instead of the one, I think they'll be replacing with 2 and a shed or whatever. And so again, I'm just thinking for people to be in the know about when that happens and to expect noise and whatever in trucks and
Well, that's easily probably at least 2 years down the road. Will
Okay.
require a referendum that every member of the town will receive a notification of and have an opportunity to vote for or against. So that's
Great.
significantly down the road, and everyone will be aware.
Thank you. And again, I'm representing especially the neighbors on the south side who back up to that area.
Sure.
And thinking about on Lakites and whatever, and there are a bunch of people that will be, so great, thank you so much. Is the town newsletter sent, the e-blast or whatever, sent regularly? I'm just trying to get everything out of the way so I can sit down and I'll just,
No, I think we queue up news and send it when we have enough to make it interesting. We don't send one on a regular basis.
okay, thank you. I sent in a note and it was said that I think you thought it was a good idea too about the 15-minute spaces that are still used in town. They're good. But they're a real pain when you sit waiting for a car with their brakes on or their backup lights on or whatever, and then they pull out and it's a 15-minute space, so you can't park there. Either they parked erroneously or they were getting something for 15 minutes, but you sit there and wait, and then you're backing up causes more traffic and blah, blah, blah. So I suggested that at the back end of each of those 15-minute spaces, that a bar be painted that says 15 min or something. So that when you come to the space driving, you go, man, that's one of those.
Great idea,
Just
and we're
avoid
doing
it.
that over the winter, so.
Great, thank you so much. That's all for now.
I have a few announcements I'd like to make. I'd like to point out to all that there was a recent press release by the University of Delaware, the Sea Grant, announcing the release of a new and updated economic study, Seaside to Statewide, on the economic impact of the coastal areas of Delaware on the entire state. In fact, this is in, I believe it's in the Cape Gazette this week, right now. This is an update of their 2012 study. It is an eye-opener, and hopefully it will have an impact upon the new incoming state and federal legislators. We, as a town and region, will be as well working hard to make sure that this does. It's a very complete study that shows that the economic impact of all the coastal areas, including building in the back and the beach towns, has pretty much surpassed other income-producing economic generators in the state. We are the greatest producer in the state. I'd also like to let everyone know that Bethany Beach took our trolley to the Returns Day Parade in Georgetown this last Thursday. This offered a wonderful opportunity to showcase the coastal communities before the entire state. Governor-elect Matt Meyer, U.S. Senator-elect Lisa Blunt Rochester, and Representative-elect Sarah McBride were all there, among many dignitaries. Most of council and wives rode along, as well as South Bethany's Mayor Edie Dondero and Millville's Mayor Ron Belinko. It was a fun day, and it served a purpose, so good day. And the weather was good. Moving on, reports. Report from the Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Committee, Mr. Hinman and Mrs. Keel.
There we go.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to give a brief update on our work. We had a meeting back in the end of February, and what our team did was sort of did a reflection back on what we thought worked well this year in terms of having impact in the community around safety. And we selected a number, we sort of did a pretty thorough review, and then we selected a number of areas that we wanted to go ahead and focus again going forward into 2025. So the items you see up there, I'm not going to list each one of them. And it's probably not an all-inclusive list, but it's the major items of impact that we were going to sort of support going forward. So again, this was the work the community, our team did. The next thing we wanted to do, we had a workshop, a community meeting workshop, which really, the way we set it up was an idea generation workshop, and there's a couple folks that are in our presence today that actually came to it, so we really appreciate that. And the idea was really just to ask the community any thoughts or ideas you all have from, that we haven't already included that you think we want to focus on for the 2025 effort as we think about the upcoming season. So I think we had, Teresa, the room was pretty much full.
Yeah,
So
we had 15 or 20 people.
yeah, and we actually had a couple things written in and shared with us. So what we're going to do, and this was actually the sort of the poster that Julie and her team put together. So Julie, thank you very much. They got publicized in advance. And what we're going to do at our next meeting, which is on the 21st, next Thursday, is we're going to go through, particularly, we have a number of things on the agenda, but one of the things we're going to do are look at all those ideas that the community came back with and try to decide and prioritize what are the things that we want to really put in and focus on for next year. So that's work the committee is going to be working on next time. So, Teresa, anything to...
I don't have anything to add other than to thank those people who showed up at our meeting last month, because it was very productive.
Right. You know, it really is a key part, right? I mean, we're all touched by the safety issue around whether you're driving, biking, walking. And so just getting people's ideas and input was really helpful. And so we were certainly probably going to try to continue that. And I think it's the linchpin of this effort. We've got a number of folks on the committee that are really fired up and want to make an impact. But more importantly, we're trying to reach out and make sure we get the community tied in too. So thank you, Mayor. Any questions from the council?
I think you've got an amazing committee there, and yes, the energy is there, and it's amazing. You're doing some great work. Just keep it up.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, Cultural and Historical Affairs Committee.
You guys are a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best, okay? I just have notes. The Cultural and Historical Affairs Committee held a meeting on Tuesday, November 12th. At our October meeting, we had discussed the possibility of creating a tour of the Dinker Irvin Museum for 4th and 5th grade students. We have since then been in contact with Lord Baltimore Elementary School, and the 4th grade teachers are very interested in the tour. So we are working now to make that happen and are very pleased that we will be able to offer this to the community. The quarter trolley tours of the Heritage Trail were again discussed, and we are looking into what options are currently available to do this on the trolley. We may instead choose to use QR codes with our historic plaques. In October, we had 45 visitors to the Dinker Irvin Museum. Our summer months totaled 420 visits, which is on a par with the same time last year. Christmas at the Cottages, when we partner with the Nature Center, will be held on Saturday, December 14th. The Nature Center will host the Alpaca Christmas Adventure from 10:30 to noon. The Dinker Irvin Museum festivities will be from 11 to 1. We will have Victorian carolers, a gingerbread house activity for the children, and the museum will be decorated for the holidays and open for tours. Our last program for the fall, the Nostalgia Show with Randy Riggle, was held on November 6th. It was a comedy show about the 50s and 60s with impersonations and a very nice veterans tribute at the end. The show was well-attended and entertaining. That's all I have. But we'll work on a PowerPoint maybe for the next.
That's okay.
Thank you. Next, report from the town manager.
Julie Molesky is going to do the town manager's report. Julie?
Wow.
Julie's going to talk about holiday events. So,
Thank you, Mr. Gravier and Mayor and Council. We have a lot of exciting things coming up in town. We rolled right from the summer. We're right into the winter things now. We are well into our Coastal Christmas Showdown, which is our decorating competition for businesses and homes, and we could use everybody involved in that as possible, because part of that is we will be awarding the winners on our tree lighting, which leads me to the tree lighting day of December 7th, which is a full day of fun and excitement downtown. We'll have our Santa party, we'll have trolley rides, tractor rides on the beach, conditions depend on that. And then we're going to have a new train. It's more like a Polar Express that's going to be going downtown, so that's exciting. Tree lighting will be hosted with the show choir from the Southern Delaware School of the Arts. And we are having pony rides on the beach again and face painting. Due to demand, we are taking reservations for those because they filled up quickly. And we are already on a waiting list for the pony rides and almost close to full reservations for the face painters. And let's see, as Carol said, we're doing the Christmases at the Cottages, December 14th. And then every Saturday leading up to Christmas, we're going to have co-sponsoring with the Chamber. We're doing Weekend Wonderland in Bethany. And we will be there'll be incentives with the businesses downtown, different shopping incentives. And then we're going to have our trolley tours to see the lighted displays. And right now we have 720 seats available for those. We have 2 trolleys running for 3 different time slots for 4 weekends, and we have over 400 people registered. So we need people to decorate so they have something to look at. But I'm sure it'll fill up. A lot of people don't know what they're doing till near the end, so we're looking forward to that. But if you want to register your home or business, you have till November 22nd to do that. So that's only a week away. And then right after that, we are headed into fire and ice season, which is the end of January 31st through February 2nd. And the town is a sponsor of that event as well, as with the Chamber. And no fireworks or bonfires this year due to beach conditions, but we are having a magician and fire juggler that Friday night. And every year there's a different theme, and this year it's a weekend for the books, and we have chosen the theme of 3 Billy Goats Gruff. And we are going to have live goats on the bandstand. We're going to have a mean old troll as our ice sculpture, and that's all I'm going to give away. After that, you'll have to come and see for yourself. So more details to come on that, but we're ready to roll. So happy holidays.
Wow. Thank you, Julie. That sounds like we got a busy next couple of months coming up here. Lots going on in town.
So much for the off-season, right?
So, Mayor, my
Yes.
report. One of the things you do have in your packet today is Julie's annual Bethany Beach Events Survey. I'm always amazed at the size of Julie's family because there's comment after positive comment about Julie in the survey. But along with that, one of the things that's raised that we've heard a lot throughout the summer and even into the fall, we realigned our shows over the course of the last couple of summers, trying to reduce crowding in town, and we put our concerts into the weekdays because our Fridays and Saturdays were already beyond belief. but we are getting a good amount of feedback that residents who visit only on weekends, don't arrive until Friday night or Saturday morning, would really like to be able to take advantage of the shows again. So I ask you all to think about whether or not you think we should change. And one of the reasons we moved were crowds, safety issues, and just trying to decrease some of the downtown. I mean, it's almost impossible to walk on the bandstand and on some of the streets on a busy July and August. And what do you all think? I'd like you to maybe get back to me over the course of January, February, and let us know as we begin to make plans for scheduling. But one of the things we are going to do is shift the fall around a little bit and do concerts on Friday and Saturday and movies on Thursday instead of what we're doing right now, which are Saturdays and Sundays. And again, Sundays sort of deprive the weekend visitor and the weekend resident who's here. So we are doing that. But again, in terms of moving one of the concerts back to Saturday for the summer, please do think about that, and we'll talk about it in the future. We've had a drought here, 39 days. It's been a record-setting drought. We've had a little bit of rain in the last week or two, but that's really, there's been a silver lining to all that, and that's ditches that you normally need hip boots or waders to get into have been absolutely dry. Route 1, for the first time in many years, DelDOT cleans it, but they don't clean it to the way we would like it done. And Public Works has spent about 2 whole weeks with every man on board working on these swales on Route 1, pulled 4 tons of refuse and sediment out of that. A couple of other hot spots in town, Bethany proper, Collins, ditches were taken care of. But it's been a benefit, unintended consequence, but it's been a positive thing for us. Our camera system, you'll see an agenda item here where it talks about an upgrade to our camera system. Cameras have become a valuable tool for us for a couple of reasons, both for internal controls and for crime prevention, crime detection. Our system has outgrown its current server. We're looking to upgrade the server. It's something we need to do. We've put off the expenditure for a little bit of time, but it is in our budget, and again, it's on our agenda today. The trolley, over the course of the last few years since COVID, we were averaging about 45,000 riders a year. COVID drastically altered that, took the ridership down to the low 30s, and over the last few years, it's built back up. It's getting closer and closer. We're still about 1,500 off of what our summer numbers were, but we totaled 44,500 riders for the entire season, including the shoulders. So it's slowly coming back to what it used to be. And again, I think that speaks to when we talk about crowding, the things we have done to alleviate crowding and parking issues. I think that's probably one of our crowning achievements there. The work on the intersection by RK&K is proceeding. They're a very, very competent firm, and they're a timely firm. They have finished up all their survey work, all their on-site work, and they're just a few weeks away from submitting their first design proposal to DelDOT, which is a positive thing for us. In conjunction with that, they have partnered with Ryan, Mahan, and Reichel, and the engineer who did the initial design on our park to handle the entrance of the park. You know, we want to tie in the pathways that we have within the park with an entrance that has a fairly nice look, a look similar to the pavers that are around the pavilion. In your packet here, you'll see a draft of what they're proposing. Much of that rendering right there is actually in the DelDOT right-of-way, will require DelDOT approval, but it will be pavers moving into the park, tying into some blacktop, tying into the blacktop path. One of the other things we've talked to Mahan and Reichel about is finally bringing to fruition our desire to have commemorative bricks within our pathways. They recommend that we don't do it at the entrance where we were thinking we would do it because it would be new going forward. But they recommend that we begin that work if we're going to go forward with that project and do it around the pavilion. We haven't ironed that out yet and had a discussion regarding their rationale, but it's something I do see us moving forward with fairly soon, and probably we can give it all to Cultural and Historic Affairs. So
Thanks for volunteering.
That's how things work here, so, but it's something we'll look at moving forward, how we want to do it, and there's actually companies that do the whole commemorative block or brick that administer it and take the orders, so on and so forth, and they do it as part of a fundraiser, so we'll explore that here in the near future. One of the other things we had done with the engineer that did the park design, we've lost about 15 to 20 trees since the park was first built. A lot of that were trees that were substandard to begin with, some of it because of the shifting of earth, and just some of it was just nature. But one of the things we've had concerns about over the course of time, and we hear about, is a lack of shade. We wanted to establish some more shade, yet at the same time keep our open spaces, which everyone likes, everybody uses. And within this packet also, you'll see that engineer's recommendation about adding some trees and shrubbery to the park, and it's something we can accomplish, some of it this year and some of it in the next budget cycle, but that's in the packet also. And Mayor, that's all I have.
Cliff, are we still on track? Do you think this is gonna, the new entrance and the sidewalk we're gonna be able to get it through before next summer?
I wouldn't bet on that.
You don't think so?
No, I just wouldn't bet on that, no.
Is that something that can be done during the summer?
Well, part of all this is DelDOT's approval, which is a 2 or 3 layer process. And one of the things I mentioned in here is when we redo the entrance, one of the things we're also going to have to do is redo the existing drainage and realign the drainage that's there. That is one of the few pieces of underground drainage we have in town. It captures a lot of water. The second thing is that we now are, because we've disturbed more than 5,000 square feet, we now require some approval from Sussex Conservation, and I think we've all had conversations over the course of time about the time it usually takes for them to deliver a product. If it was just simply one DelDOT approval, I think we might be on track, but I don't have that optimism. I mean, I'd love to see it done, but.
I know, we all would. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Yeah, Cliff, you commented about the drought. Just recently, Judy and I have been walking around the town. It's interesting, the fact that even though we're not having rain, Pennsylvania Avenue has water on it. So people should realize that Pennsylvania Avenue is now below sea level, and they understand that the water comes this way through those drains. It's amazing all the water that's there with the drought that's going on.
Mr. Morris, I can tell you that some people will never understand that.
Is there any questions from the audience for Cliff? Jen?
Yes.
Well, the trouble is, it's the online.
Jen Carter, 429 Collins. About the park and the pavilion. People have asked over the years, since it's been there, what do we do in or with the pavilion? So I'm thinking, but without the crosswalk, you don't want hundreds of people going over there for any kind of event. But could the park be used more frequently for something? I mean, other than just people enjoying it to walk and whatever they do, bike and,
Sure.
you know.
One of the things that we've never really explored that or pushed to do that because we didn't have the intersection. When the intersection is complete, because parking it will be an issue if we do something in the park. Once that crosswalk is in, it's something that we can consider. I can tell you when we put the park in and we had the pavilion in our design work, we also had people from the neighborhood come to us and tell us they never wanted to see anything in the pavilion, much like the walkway on Collins. And yes, I understand. And but it's something we've considered, something maybe small, string quartet or some small events there. Yes.
And I believe during this last summer, there were several contracted activities that happened in the park.
Yes, and we've had people, instead of the beach, want to go to the pavilion for weddings, so we'll see what happens with that.
Okay, but I mean, there was like yoga in the park.
Yes, we've
and,
done some things like
I forget, there was some other activities.
But
over
we
there.
haven't done anything that brought a lot of people simply because of parking in the crosswalk.
Sure,
So.
sure, but the park does get used. Bill?
Bill Bergfeld, 414 Gibson. I back up to the park, and I just want to dispel any false impressions people might have. That thing is utilized every day, and it's maybe not the pavilion, but the park is used every day by people. We had people playing baseball out there, and frisbee, and soccer, and during the summer especially. But even now, there's people walking there all the time, walking their dogs. So it is being used. The parking was an issue, and that's why the neighborhood talked to the council about not having functions there. I think you're right, Cliff, when that walkway goes across there, there may be an opportunity to people park here, but there is really no parking in that section. And you know, we do know we have parking spaces because the 4th of July, they fill up, just like every other place in the town. That's not the issue. The streets are narrow. They're residential streets. It's tough to find a parking spot. People do, and it's okay. That's fine. But there's not a way. We did have a wedding there, and it was a great wedding. It was small. They had music.
Yeah.
The music wasn't crazy loud. It was nice, and I don't think anybody really has an issue with any of that going forward. So.
Well, if you remember, and I think you were probably in the audience at one of the very first presentations that the engineer who designed the park had, he talked about the pavilion and having rock concerts in the pavilion.
Yeah.
And that sort of got legs.
Yeah.
And so we've worked. We don't have any intention of. We know what we have here, and I don't think we want to bring a lot of people for any event to the park simply because of parking and traffic and the safety of crossing Route 1. We have green space. We love the green space. It's the only green space we have in town.
Yep, and I'm all for more trees because people complain about it when they're walking their dogs and you sit at the bench and you sit in the sun. I did have one concern about a pathway connecting this crosswalk to right at Kent Avenue. So there will have to be a walkway someplace through there. And if you look, there really isn't a place to go unless you go inside the pump house.
Oh, no, we're putting a sidewalk on 26.
Okay, so it's going right down there,
Yes.
so there'll be
It'll
some...
continue from where it ends and comes down to this crosswalk.
Okay, so there'll be some trees taken out.
I think we might lose one crepe.
All right, because I've been looking at it and I'm saying,
Yeah.
well, the pathway would go like this and this, trying to get away
No.
around obstructions. Okay, I'm fine.
I'll give you a copy of this, Bill, before we leave.
Cliff, can I follow up on the mayor's comment about the sort of the timing of this? And I sort of say this with a little bit of a reservation because I have a little more sense of how things work with DelDOT. And but is there an opportunity to sort of do this rather than a linear kind of thing where we come up with a design and then hand it off to DelDOT to sort of do it in a little bit more of a parallel where they're involved with the design, even in a preliminary, so that it's not we do the design, then we hand it over, then they start the clock. Is there any opportunity to?
So DelDOT did that with the flashing beacon at Ashwood Street.
Okay.
That, I don't know, was it 3 years? I'm not sure. It was 2 or 3 years. Okay.
That was the parallel version?
So one of the things that DelDOT did when we took this to them was immediately say, well, we'll approve, but you build it. So we are out of, your concern has been dealt with already. So once it's approved, we're good as long as we can get it going in a timely manner, and we'll be able to do that much more rapidly than DelDOT. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any more comments, questions? Before we go into new business, I would like to state that there will be opportunity for the public to address questions on the agenda items after initial council discussion and before the council votes. So just be aware of that. Okay, new business. First item on the agenda, discussion, consideration, possible vote on the town council procedure and protocol manual. Mr. Morris.
Mayor and council, I reviewed the Bethany Beach Town Council Procedure and Protocol Manual. It's a very detailed 68-page document. It stipulates all responsibilities and duties of the town council, its officers, the town manager, fiscal manager, and the town clerk. It outlines all requirements, when to have regular meetings, special and emergency meetings, executive meetings, and how they should proceed. We as council members are required to review this each year in November, at the November meeting, and make changes if required. It appears over the years there have been several additions and changes made. Because of this, there are inconsistencies in formatting, and I recommend that we table a vote on the manual and each council member review the document and submit changes to Raylene, you'll love me, Raylene, the town clerk, for revisions and formatting, and we review the changes and vote on approval in the next council meeting. Any comment?
One thing Cliff brought up is maybe have a workshop on this. Do you think that's advisable rather than comments, or do it?
Well, we could do it as a workshop, sure.
You got any
Mayor, why
thoughts?
don't we wait to see what people send to us? And if it's just a couple of corrections or punctuation, we'll just handle that. But if there's more concern about content, we'll schedule the workshop. We'll talk to you about a workshop.
There is an extreme amount of content, and like I said, the formatting kind of jumped all over because of changes, and it needs to be updated. So workshop is a great idea. Let's see what everybody thinks.
Okay. You've got your suggestions?
Well, I've got them, yeah, I haven't given anything to Renee yet.
Okay. Well, why don't we go that way, see how it goes,
Okay?
and then we'll make
I think the formatting is the most important part of it, because it is, whoever has done this in the past, it is very detailed. I mean, it gets down to even being courteous to the audience. I mean, that's how detailed it is.
We're always courteous to the audience.
Well, sometimes it's hard.
Okay, so we will, I guess, do we need a motion to delay this, and then we'll make a decision, to table it, and
Well, I'll make a motion that we table the vote on this until it's been updated, and we'll have it at the next council meeting.
okay. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so done. The next item, discussion, consideration, possible vote on committee guidelines and standing committees. Mr. Shepley.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, like the Town Council Procedure Manual, we get an opportunity every year in the at our November meeting to review the Bethany Beach Committee guidelines. In those guidelines, there are definitions of the types of committees that the town has that are, the first type is mandated by state law. We have standing committees that are set up and approved by the town, and we have ad hoc or special committees. It specifies the terms of the committees, the membership of the committees, and the purpose and scope of each committee. I have at least two changes, one of which is major. One is to remove the Telecommunications Committee that we disbanded earlier this year. And the other one that will be more extensive is to add the new Police Accountability Committee that we set up. So I would like to make a motion to table the vote on this until our next council meeting in January, and also have the council review it and submit their changes to Raylene.
Well, you'll kind of champion this, so won't you?
Yeah, sure.
Follow it along?
In fact, I mean, I am perfectly willing and I think able, if you would send your changes, proposed changes, additions, deletions, send them to me. I'll accumulate them and send them on one batch for Raylene to update this document.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Well, I was going to suggest you do the, just, I guess, as far as the communication, is just removing it.
Yeah.
And then as far as the PAC committee, the Police Accountability Committee, it's doing a write-up. But I think we have the wording and stuff from our last discussion when we created the committee.
Well, we have to have a scope and the responsibilities of the committee, so.
Right.
Yeah. And I
Do a
can,
draft on it and then
sure,
circulate it?
sure,
We can go from there?
more than happy to, yes.
Okay. Okay. We'll have a motion that we proceed accordingly.
That we table it, just like Mr.
Table it.
Morse.
Okay. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
So just so we know, if you have any changes, send them to me. And I will send you a draft for the new committee.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay, the next order of business, discussion and consideration and possible vote for the appointment of Bob Cavallo, is it, to the Bicycle and Safety and Pedestrian Committee. Mayor Caleb.
Okay, I'm actually going to turn this one over to Mickey because he knows Bob a little more than I. Do you want to discuss that?
Sure. Yeah, it's with great pleasure we get a chance to add another member of our team, Bob Cavallo. Bob has lived in part-time in Bethany West since the 1998. He and his wife moved here full-time 2 or 3 years ago. He's an engineer, chemical background, design, he and I've had a chance to work together. He's actually on the board now for the Bethany West, so he's been very vocal about and thoughtful about some ideas around safety and how we can advance that. So he reached out to me. He actually attended our last workshop, and so it's with great pleasure, really, we had, Teresa and I get to add him to our team. So I'd like to put forward his nomination to the council for a vote. Or if you have, anyone have any questions?
Would you like me to second that?
I would love for you to second
I
that.
second that.
Okay, so that's a nomination of Mr. Cavallo to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Committee. Any discussion? Those in favor of,
Aye.
all right. Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next order of business is the second reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 282, Peace and Good Order, Article 12, Special Events, Section 28, Definitions of the Bethany Town Code. Mayor Caleb.
Yeah, with Mr. McHugh not being here today, I'll address this one. This ordinance amends Chapter 282 of the Bethany Beach Town Code by changing the definition of special events in Article 12, Section 28. And the intent of this is to change, the intent of this change is to clarify that the town has the requisite authority to regulate the sponsorship of day camps within the town. This change to the definition of special events to include an explicit reference to day camps accomplishes this. In turn, the change coordinates with other provisions in the ordinance that require anybody who wishes to run such a day camp to obtain a permit to do so, and clarifies that the town manager can issue or deny any such permit. In addition, other provisions in this section then would apply to any approved day camp requiring the sponsor to obtain insurance coverage, to protect the town, and to satisfy cleanup obligations.
Mayor, if I might, because this is part of the record and it goes to the intent of the change, day camps is really just a small part. We're adding day camps for a reason, but the major change is removing the word significant impact and just saying an impact for all the different things that we're listing here. The significant is so subjective. What one person may really consider insignificant could have a tremendous impact in the plaza area. And just being able to say an impact, you're having an impact on our boardwalk, our beach, and we're denying because of that impact is the real intent. Day camps was essentially an ancillary issue here. So
Okay.
just as we go on with the intent of the change, that was the intent.
Okay. Is there any questions?
No.
Anybody have any comments from the audience? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the ordinance changes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, again, any discussion, I think we've covered that. Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So moved, so approved. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible vote on a contract submitted by Artifico
Yes.
LLC for the replacement security camera server and licensing in the amount of $63,739. Mr. Gravier.
Mayor, Council, as I mentioned in my report, this is an upgrade to our camera system. It's an upgrade to the existing server, to the software, and the rack and all the ancillary equipment. Over the course of the 8 or 9 years we have been involved with using our video system, we have gone from just a handful of cameras to 70 today. The paperwork here mentions 60, but those are the number of licenses we had at the time we contracted with Artifico. We are now at 70. So the server itself can handle up to 100 cameras, so we have more than adequate space to increase if we want, or to add resolution if needed. But this is something that we need to do because of the lack of storage and problems we're having of late, most especially with the software that controls the program and allows us to do playback. The money for this is in our current budget. The dollars for this are in the current budget.
Okay. And this covers areas, this even covers out the Blackwater storage.
Yes, we have,
that
we have
whole-
it, they're in the system, under the boardwalk, the nature center,
boardwalk?
the park, yes.
Okay. Okay. Do we have a motion, do we have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Second? Okay, any discussion? Patrick?
Cliff, on the quote from Artifico, there are 3 items that aren't included. One of them, to me, looks like it may be a recurring annual expense for the Wasabi cloud storage. The other 2, I'm not sure. Is, in general terms, can you explain what they are or why they're not part of the quote that we are set to possibly approve? One's the 60-bay rack mount NAS. Will, you're the only person here that's nodding like you know what that is. And the other is a 16 terabyte Iron Wolf Pro 7200. And even Will's confused. No, he's not. He knows. He knows. But I assume we don't need these, or the one is a recurring annual expense, some type of license.
You are correct on both counts, sir.
Okay, okay, good.
Those grayed out items were possible and future additions, if you will.
Okay,
And the storage is for an online redundancy for our data.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Will.
Any other questions or comments? Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, discussion, consideration, and possible vote on a contract submitted by JMT for the design and construction documents for the replacement of the water clarifiers in the amount of $307,900. Mr. Gravier.
Mayor, Council, this is a proposal from JMT Engineering for $307,900 for project management coordination, site investigation, clarifier equipment and building evaluation, clarifier design, and bid documents for a replacement set of clarifiers for the water plant. I would say right at the very beginning of our discussion that the town has used JMT as an engineering service for over 20 years. JMT was responsible and worked with the town for our streetscape program. JMT was responsible and worked with the town and DelDOT over a very, very high-end traffic and pedestrian traffic safety study we did a good number of years ago. And here in the last 2.5 years, JMT has worked with us on at least 5 other separate projects, and we've had very good response from them. The contract that you see here today, much of the language has been replicated in all of our contracts with them. This contract has been reviewed by our solicitor and gone back over with an outside engineering firm to review its content, and we are satisfied with what's presented in the contract. But that's as a preface to the discussion. Our water plant, we are fortunate in that we pick up our water that we deliver to our customers from deep aquifers that are easily 250 feet plus deep. The benefit there is that they are not subject to surface contamination. All the POSIS and all the other sorts of chemicals that the state is trying to deal with 99% of the other water plants and treatment systems in the state don't apply to us because we're able to pull our water from these deep aquifers. The negative with pulling water from these deep aquifers that are resistant to surface contamination is that they contain an unusual amount, in some cases, of minerals that impact the quality of the water. In our case, the water is impacted by an unusual amount of iron. And the iron is pumped to the surface, and it's treated in a very, very basic way. It's pumped into a retention area. The iron settles to the bottom of the retention area, then needs to be pumped, stored into a pond where noisy trucks come and pump it out at least once or twice a year. So over the course of time, the clarifier that we have used that's been in the plant since the 80s has reached really the end of its useful life. We only have one clarifier, and as we look to replace it, we went through a number of different scenarios that the council discussed in earlier public meetings, and we've come back again just recently to talk to the council about a solution that we think deals with a number of our concerns, and that's 2 smaller clarifiers. I have asked Sean, and I think the council has seen this before, but I don't think we can show it enough because it's going to be a referendum issue and a large expenditure for the town. I've asked Sean to once again present his overview of what we're talking about, the clarifiers, their impact, and how they work for the council today. Sean?
Mayor, Council, Sean Cooper, Town of Bethany Beach, Director of the Water Department. Today I have a presentation for you on necessary upgrades at the water plant. To give a little background about what we do at the water plant, as Cliff said, we do pump 4 active wells. These are drilled in the confined Pocomoke and Minokan aquifers. The untreated water from these aquifers has significant iron content ranging from 10 to 14 parts per million. Water with high iron content has an unpleasant orange appearance. The water treatment plant constructed in 1992 was designed to remove iron, and most of this removal occurs in the clarifier. A clarifier is a settling tank used to remove solids from water. The one at Bethany Beach is made of concrete, 56 foot in diameter, 16 feet deep, and has a capacity of 250,000 gallons. It's manufactured by Schreiber Corporation, and on Schreiber clarifiers, there's a traveling bridge. At Bethany Beach, this bridge makes one full rotation every 40 minutes. This is a picture of our clarifier. In the center, you'll see a smaller circle. That is where the water enters the clarifier. On the outside, you'll see fiberglass weirs. That's where clarified water flows over and then flows via gravity to the water plant. The way that our clarifier works is we pump the raw water to the water plant and we hit it with two chemicals. Sodium permanganate, which is a very strong oxidizer. It turns iron from a ferrous to a ferric state, from in solution to out of solution. And we also inject polyaluminum chloride. This is a coagulant used to aid in coagulation, flocculation, and sedimentation. The water then enters the clarifier at a rate of 1,130 gallons per minute. The oxidized iron in the water becomes suspended and it bonds with the polyaluminum chloride in a process called coagulation, where it clumps together to form a flock. This flock settles to the floor, it accumulates, and the process is called flocculation and sedimentation. A scraper blade that is suspended from the rotating bridge moves the settled solids to the floor. To the center, there's a sump and a discharge outlet. This line has a valve that myself and the other operators operate twice a day. This transports the iron from the floor to the waste lagoon. And as Cliff mentioned, 2 to 3 times a year, subcontractors pump it, and it is very noisy. When the wells are called to run, the untreated water, it enters the clarifier, and the clarified water is displaced where it flows over the weirs. It enters a launderer, it flows to the water plant via gravity, and then filtration processes in the water plant remove any remaining iron. We do have some problems with the clarifier at the water plant. The main one being that the iron sludge is not efficiently transported. It's not efficiently transported to the discharge outlet, and it builds up over time. The reasons for this are the raker arm configuration, where we have concrete columns that support the stilling ring. It prohibits the blade from moving the sludge all the way to the center, and the slope of the sump is too gradual. We've done a couple things to try to modify it. One of those was in 2015. We removed what was called sludge shoes, and we changed the slope of the central sump to match the invert of the discharge pipe. The picture on the left was pre-2015, where you see these sludge shoes. The top image in the center shows that the sump was deeper. What we did was we cut the pipe, we filled the sump with concrete, and we matched the invert. And you'll see the yellow arrow on the right shows that pipe. The idea was to have better hydraulic flow of the sludge to the lagoon. And in this next picture, you'll see what resulted. This was about waist-high pile of settled iron after we dewatered the clarifier. So that modification did not work as designed. Another modification that we did is something we call the sludge straw. In 2018, we mounted a 3-inch galvanized steel pipe to the rotating bridge. We positioned it 4 inches off the clarifier floor. We fitted it with hose connections, and we use a gas-powered centrifugal pump to manually pump the sludge off the floor of the clarifier. This process is labor-intensive, takes a lot of time, and it's very hard on the equipment. In February 2023, Water Department staff drained and cleaned the clarifier for JMT Engineering to perform a structural evaluation. A considerable amount of iron sludge remained after draining the tank. And as part of this evaluation, it was determined the existing clarifier equipment is beyond its serviceable life, and notable deficiencies were identified in the concrete tank. The stilling ring columns support were hollow in areas. There was concrete rutting from rake wear on the tank floor after 30 years of use, and bug holes, which are trapped air, were larger than expected in the concrete on the tank walls. This photograph is staff in the tank as we were draining it for the structural evaluation. You'll see the yellow arrow against the wall. That is thigh-high piles of iron. It took shovels, fire hoses, pumps, many days to remove that iron sludge. And this was in February. Cold weather, freezing pipes out in the field. It's very difficult to manage everything. And on top of it, when we do drain this tank, we have to do what's called direct filtration, where we bypass the clarifier, and the raw water that has 10 to 14 parts of iron goes directly to the filters. What we determined was it would not be sustainable to operate the plant that way in peak season flows. So JMT Engineering, we tasked them with making recommendations to improve this sludge handling. They are out of Newark, Delaware. The original recommendation that JMT proposed was the construction of a second similarly sized clarifier. This would be another 56-foot diameter tank. The 2023 opinion of probable cost was $2,040,000. This new clarifier would become the primary, and the existing clarifier would remain as a backup. Other options included costly retrofits, which utilize the existing concrete tank that has its own issues, and substituting the clarifier for another technology called an inclined plate settlers. Neither of these addressed our need for redundancy, and the price for value was not appealing to the town. Some advantages of having a second similarly sized clarifier were it did address our need for redundancy. It would allow us to perform maintenance on either of the clarifiers without adjusting our treatment processes, and there'd be minimal impact to treatment operations during construction. As we looked at this recommendation, we noticed quite a few disadvantages. The main one being the footprint that a job like this would require. We'd have to remove established trees in the adjacent wooded area to the east. We would have to expand the fence line, and this option does not include any upgrades or modifications to the existing clarifier. So the bug holes in the concrete, the rutting in the concrete, the inadequate floor slope, and the scraper blade and support column conflict would not be addressed. The existing tank would likely sit idle for much of the year, but doing so would take up an unnecessarily large footprint. And the unsightly overgrown hill and the obsolete concrete aerator platform that is up the stairs would remain. So all things considered, town staff, we brainstormed the idea of 2 new smaller size clarifiers, which could be used in parallel or independently. This would address our concerns for the footprint, physical security, redundancy, water security, aging equipment, and the appearance. Earlier this summer in 2024, JMT was tasked with determining the feasibility of this and providing an opinion of probable cost for design and construction. What JMT found was that 2 smaller 40 to 45 foot diameter tanks can be constructed on the water plant grounds utilizing the existing footprint. The scope of this work would include the demolition of the existing tank and clarifier equipment, and the existing clarifier footprint and adjacent area would be graded. These 2 tanks would utilize precast concrete walls, and the reason would be to expedite the construction With a poured-in-place concrete wall, it would be a 12-month project. With the precast, it would be a 6-month project. This is necessary because of our busy summer season. This would have to be an off-season job due to our lower flows. And the question was asked about the longevity of the precast walls. What I did find out was that they have a much greater longevity. The reasons for this are the walls are created on site at a concrete plant. This allows for better quality control than the variability of truck delivery. Also, the panels are poured horizontal to the ground. This reduces what's called honeycombing in the concrete, or the unequal spreading of the aggregate. The two smaller clarifier option addresses all of our concerns and has numerous advantages, the main one being a smaller footprint, new tanks and equipment. It offers redundancy without the unnecessarily large footprint, and it offers the best water security and emergency preparedness. And to expand on this, the difficulties that we have with one clarifier draining it would not be sustainable if that was necessary in the summer months. The flexibility of operations and the ability to increase maintenance would be especially important for staff. We'd be able to take one tank offline for maintenance without interrupting conventional treatment. And with the seasonal population at an all-time high, and more importantly, the year-round population increasing year by year, it gives us less opportunity to shut down for the time needed to maintain these tanks, or tank now. Another benefit would be that two smaller tanks can be covered to improve the physical security. This would also prohibit birds, algae, and falling debris from entering the clarifier. And the options and cost would be evaluated as part of this design phase. This is a picture of the water plant at its current state. You'll see in the center, the large tank is the clarifier. Above it is the concrete pad and stairs leading to it that is now obsolete since that has been removed. The large lagoon below the clarifier is where the wasted iron goes and is pumped from. And this is the original recommendation. The dashed red line is the existing fence line. You'll see that another 56-foot clarifier would impede on that fence line. It would need to be extended, and that all of that area would need to be cleared, which are established trees and adjacent to neighbors' backyards. The new option, however, with two 40-foot diameter smaller tanks, you can see is much more consolidated. The area would be graded. We have a possibility to cover them, and it would make the water plant grounds look much more tidy. This is an opinion of the probable cost of this project. These numbers are not firm. It does include a 20% contingency for risks and unknown that are discovered during the design phase. It should be noted that the cost of the building is not included in this grand total. That is just sub $4 million. Speaking with the engineers, they are fairly confident with this number. A scope of services contract from JMT Engineering has been received for the amount of $307,900. This includes the project management, coordination, site investigation, equipment and building evaluation, and clarifier design. And in closing, being very familiar with the treatment requirements to ensure clean, safe, aesthetically pleasing drinking water for customers in Bethany Beach, it is my recommendation that the option for two smaller clarifiers be considered as the best option for upgrades at the water treatment plant. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Yes, sir.
Questions?
Mr. Grabier, I've wanted to say this for 3 months, to clarify the clarifier. This proposed contract is the same one that we discussed at the workshop earlier,
Yes,
correct?
yes, it is.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I mean, as I understand it, this is the least obtrusive it takes. It basically is taking the existing clarifier out, which is raised to up to 16 feet, I believe it is, and taking the new ones will be mounted at grade, and they will be almost within the same footprint that is there currently.
Yes.
Okay.
And as Sean spoke to, you have 2 new pieces of equipment as opposed to the older clarifier, which has its own set of issues. And one of the reasons we wanted to leave the old clarifier was for redundancy, but here you've really taken the redundancy to a much higher level because you have the 2 newer pieces of equipment.
Right. 2 newer ones which are state-of-the-art.
Yes. And one of the things that Sean spoke about, this isn't something that we've approached lightly in terms of the recommendation to change or to build new. There have been a number of attempts, engineered attempts, and a lot of study going in to find ways to remedy the problems and inefficiencies with the current clarifier, and they have not been successful.
And this is actually necessary so that we make sure that we get the population clean, clear water.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's the main target.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we sort of gloss over is the fact that that clarifier does sit open 24 hours a day for whatever to drop into it or be put into it. And it's pumped into a filtration system which is designed to take X, Y, and Z out, but not necessarily A, B, and C. So, and one of the things Sean talked about was just pumping straight into these filters. Those filters cost over $300,000, and if we have to start replacing them constantly, we'll have another set of issues.
I don't know if anybody in the audience has ever lived outside in the immediate area, but I happen to have a property for a couple of years back that was from another supplier of water, not to be mentioned, and that water had so much iron in it, it was actually 10x the recommended level. I had Cliff analyze it for me, and I went in and complained that they flushed the lines and everything, but they do not do the quality of work on their water that we do. Outside people, they complain all the time that their tubs, their sinks, everything just turns brown, your toilets. It's because of the iron that's in the water, and they do not get it out. So Bethany does an exceptional job of making sure that you have quality water.
I also like, I think the precast alternate that Sean talked about and the clarifications that it is, it's actually a better quality than poured in place is certainly a positive.
Well, on its face, it would seem, and when the question was raised at the workshop, that the concrete and rebar might be more lasting, but it's interesting that it's not, so.
Okay. How long do we expect the design to take?
Well, I think we're probably a little bit about a month behind the calendar in the schedule.
Yep.
But so design is, 90% design would be done by May. So we'll
Okay.
think May, June.
So we'll be in a position this will be our next off-season construction.
Well, we're going to pursue the funding, and one of the
Right.
things that we talked about, I think, at the workshop, is that we can proceed with construction as our loan is in the process and in the works, and not have to pay anything until the construction is done. And that coincides perfectly with the retirement of our sinking fund debt, and we had that conversation also. But all of that will be laid out as we take this to referendum. But this The approval of this contract is the council's approval with the two clarifier concept and the approval to go with the two clarifier design and bid documents for that, so.
And one of the important things that probably most people are interested in is that we will be paying off the current tower, so that debt will be eliminated. And this will close to come back to being a matching thing, so we'll just be continuing.
So for
on.
anyone in the audience who doesn't know, on your water bill, you have a sinking fund fee, and that sinking fund fee will be retired within the next year to year and a half. That is the fee that paid for the water tower, and we've paid that loan off early. When that's retired, this debt will essentially move in its place and will be the same amount, so there'll be no increase in your water bills. So.
I think people are, that's certainly a positive to be heard out there.
Well, I hope so.
Okay. Okay, any other questions?
I think, Cliff, we had talked about this before when we, in the early stages. And Sean, thank you, by the way. That was an awesome presentation.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you taking us through that. I don't think we can understate it. I know we don't have it built in necessarily to cover both of the two new clarifiers, but from a security perspective, I don't think that ability can be really understated in today's world, unfortunately, right?
Yes.
For obvious reasons. If somebody wanted to do harm, right, getting
Right.
through the fence is not that big a deal.
And it's not illustrated for those that don't so we will cover the clarifiers with, say, a faux barn. We'll put a Butler building up. We'll try to make it aesthetically pleasing, blending in with the existing architecture at the water plant. And it'll be covered, there'll be doors, it'll be secure. It's not secure today, it sits open today. So the two newer ones will, for the first time, be secure and give us a level of security in today's world that I think we all think we need, so.
Yes. Please. Yeah. Can I ask one question also? Are you a resident of Bethany?
She'll tell you.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Helen Pastis, and I am a resident
Okay.
of Bethany Beach.
Can you state your address, please?
316 Garfield Parkway, it's a property right now. So I'm a property owner to be a resident.
Okay, thank you, Ellen.
It's next to the museum. In your proposed design of the two clarifiers, they will replace the one old clarifier. How will you, and it requires its demolition, how will you be supplying water in the meantime?
We have an agreement with our neighboring water department who will supply water to the town while we do this project.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gravier. Thank you, Sean. Excellent report. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I think, I would hope there's no more discussion, but, okay. Those in favor of proceeding with of approving the contract for JMT?
Aye.
So moved.
The next order of business is consideration of possible vote on canceling the December town council meeting. Mayor.
December is a busy personal month and family month for all of us. It's a relatively quiet time for the town business, except for Julie, of course. The December meeting, if we had it, would fall just ahead of Christmas week. In the past years, we have always canceled the December meeting, and I would like to propose that our December meeting be canceled this year as well. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, comments?
The only comment is that we cancel a meeting with the provision that if there is some emergency of some sort, we will meet.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any comments from the audience? Okay, did we vote already?
Yep.
Yeah.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The last item on the agenda is considering a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters pursuant to 29 Del.C.10004, parentheses B, parentheses 9, parentheses, and parentheses 6, relating to personnel matters. I move that we adjourn to executive session.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. I want to thank everybody in attendance today and those listening online. Have a wonderful holiday season, and I hope to see everybody around town at Julie's events.
You gotta do it.